Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on Voice of Olympus, we start a new inquiry called Olympian Paths. And of course, we have to talk to Joanne Gajewski, who has traveled on the path with us for many a show. And our paths separated for a while, but now they're coming back together again. And I'm really happy that she's here, and I'm really happy to be starting this new adventure with her. Greetings and welcome, Joanne.
Thank you. It's so good to be home. Um,
It's good to have you
when you
home.
when you texted me, it was like, wow, it was very powerful for me because it felt like I had come full circle since the last time, we had talked and, things were up in the air as far as your channel and what was going on with both of us. And I feel so much good has happened, even though sometimes things in the world don't seem so good. Um,
That's very true. But yes, you're right. Lots of good things have been happening as well as the scary things that have been happening.
Well, you started me on this journey, and you've been a mentor to me, and it really felt like coming full circle to be able to come back home and onto Mount Olympus because it always holds a special place in my heart anyway, as where this all began, this crazy journey.
And I've learned a lot from you. You started with me on one of the witchcraft type of festivals, and I
Yes, yes.
because I believe my health was starting to go around that point. So we did it by Zoom, and this was long before I got on Zoom. So I learned from you, and you encouraged me to pursue that particular path. So here we are. Blog Talk Radio is no more, but
I
Zoom
know.
exists. And so here we are. So I learned a lot from you, and I continue to learn a lot from you. And today we're going to focus primarily on the path that you're on, especially the parts of it that are Hellenistic. But because it's been a while since we spoke, I guess let's start first by give a short summary of your spiritual journey up until the point that you found the Hellenistic part of it, and then we'll take.
Um, Basically, as you know, things went a little awry over the last year or two with, trying to figure out platforms and stuff. And after Joyful Empowerment started, I had developed another platform with Jim Sayers. We created Inside the Sacred Circle, which
Oh,
is expanded to weaving the web and other workings that he does because he's on the Pagan Solidarity Movement. And he does a lot of work with Byron Ballard, other people like that. And we expanded our platform and we created a platform was special because of people in there and everybody gets along and respects everybody. And I have fought to keep the platform and Jim as well, like that. We personal views, it's entertainment and educational, and it's for seekers on the that are looking for credible people help them find their way. So if you were looking to, let's say, go or if you were looking for the path, provide people that are credible and renowned in that field, will give you credible resources and data. Much misinformation out there in the well, and
you're freezing up on me, Joanne. Your bandwidth is low. Are you still with us? Let's pause this for a second. And we're back. And Joanne, your picture's frozen again. Hello, Joanne.
yes, I took it off of Wi-Fi, so hopefully it'll be a little bit better.
Okay, yeah, now it's moving. It was freezing up and I couldn't hear any sound for a little while. So
Oh, I apologize.
that's okay. It sounds like you're doing some really amazing stuff. That is great. And you're helping a lot of people and helping a lot of people connect and focusing their energy and their information, their skills into things that benefit everybody in the community. So that's fantastic. I'm proud of you.
Well, yep, and that led to weaving the web with my friend Sigrid, who's in Denmark. And, her and I worked a Nordic path together, where we taught each other. She didn't know my pantheon. I didn't know hers. And what we did was we did a wheel of the year together in the way I normally do it. But what we did was we combined resources, we combined both our knowledge, and we figured out that it's so much better to do things together. And we have more things in common than not in common. And we did, and we were looking at all these TikTok videos and all these things that you see with these 1 minute spells, you write on a bay leaf and then, by the time you get to the end of the 30-second thing, there's a bay leaf, there's a whole bunch of other pieces in the picture that you don't know how they got there. And you know what I mean? So obviously, any practitioner knows when you do a working, there's really not much you can do in 30 seconds if you're doing something very important.
Mhm.
So chances are it's going to leave information out. So her and I decided to just make a channel called Weaving the Web, where it's just real witches talking real life, because the path is not an aesthetic, it's a way of life. You don't have to dress a certain way, as you don't have to, all those things are great, but it's not what's required to talk to the gods and the goddess and to connect with spirit. And so we created that platform on inside the sacred circle as well. And then I have, joyful empowerment on Mount Olympus. So it started off as just bringing joy and then expanding off of that. And now we're trying to connect people to show, hey, look, we have all these things in common. Why all this infighting? Why don't we focus on the good things that we all contribute to our paths and just have real conversations about being a pagan, a witch, whatever you'd like to call it, in real life. This is what it is. It's me living life. There's no, not everybody dresses up like in Salem, the witch aesthetic, and real witches, as Byron Ballard loves to say, have many faces, and that's what we're trying to do.
That is great. I sometimes dress up, but I dress up for like
Do
not
too.
again, not recently, but up until recently, I was dressing up for parades in town, and I was
Yeah.
leading the interfaith parade and blessing Tenafly in the name of Mount Olympus. And I'll dress up sometimes, but I'm Hercules, so whatever I'm wearing is what Hercules wears. So,
Exactly. Like, I have to go to, I work, which, brings me to, I'm doing my clinical internships now. Everybody knows I was I'm in graduate school for psychology and I specialize in PTSD and trauma. And
mhm.
I was looking at, you remember, I was always saying, what am I going to do? I don't want to be clinical, but I want to be holistic. I want to include both sides of myself because I believe in evidence-based practices, as you know.
Right. Mhm.
And I'm like, how am I going to combine all this? And everywhere I turned, I kept getting a door shut in my face, And I was like, why is this happening? And I started working with Briege Burke. And I went to her school on the divine feminine, the dark feminine archetypes. And I did a real deep dive into the dark feminine and, the dark aspects of Hecate, of, all the gods and the goddesses that we have. And I really learned how to integrate that into my life, which brought me back to Demeter, where I started. She has always been my home base, so to speak. And I went to her and I'm like, I feel like everything is out of order.
Yeah, the Persephone
Am I
story.
smart?
played a very big part of your journey, also, Demeter's daughter.
Yes, because my Persephone, absolutely. So, you know, she's 21 now and she's trying to find her way. And I'm still trying to learn to let her go a little bit. And it frustrates me when she's frustrated. So, I went back to home base. I was frustrated all around the board. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I supposed to do? I felt a calling to do this, to work with kids like my daughter and at-risk youth and what is happening, and I really took that deep dive into the dark feminine and how it empowers us and how these different aspects of the goddess pertain to different parts of our lives, you
Right.
know and I started getting really into the Medusa myth.
Hmm.
I really went into my Medusa phase, and incorporated her energy and her spirit to help me become a stronger person, to be able to face these challenges and to really see people for who they are and cut those people out of my life. I did a lot of cutting away of people, because this year was all about astrologically the masks coming off and us seeing people for who they really are. um
Very,
the people that we thought were so great aren't really what we thought, and that happens in all areas of our life, not just spiritually. And it's been an eye-opener.
my path, when I was actively involved in my professions, were also, it was primarily vocational rehabilitation, psychiatric rehabilitation, workforce development,
Yep.
stuff like that. So I used to, I basically, it was the choice of Hercules. You're coming to crossroads in your life, and you have to make a choice. So you're going to go one way
Yes.
or the other way, and depending on which way you go, different things are going to happen to you. And choosing the more difficult or challenging path is what that particular voyage requires you or suggests that you do. Although sometimes you'll take the other path and learn those lessons too. That's like the dark Hercules path.
Yep.
I know about integrating mythology into my practice in my life, and also I've shared a lot recently. I have type 2 diabetes, and
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
oh, I've had it for like 20 years, maybe. So I'm still living with it. My blood numbers are stable though,
That's awesome.
and I have it under control. But diabetes is like the Hydra because it can kill you.
Yes. Yes.
Also, they don't know exactly what causes it. They'll say it's sugar in the blood or it's inflammation. It's a bunch of different things. And you could attack any one of the heads, and sometimes you'll fix that head. Like you're not eating anything inflammatory, you're not doing inflammatory things, but that doesn't make your numbers get better. So sometimes you chop off the head, two more will pop up in its place. Sometimes
Yeah.
I used to like peanut butter and I could eat it on diabetes until the day I had peanut butter and it shot up my blood. So
Wow.
that changes too. So that's my hydra. And that's how I've integrated that into my path. So I've always been interested in how other people have integrated their mythologies into their path. And you certainly have done that to a very great degree. What, how did you first find the Hellenic pantheon?
I actually started finding it through my mentor, Mark Lyons. He had a beautiful coven in Long Island called Solitaries of the Silver Broom, where we all came from different, pantheons. We were all solitary practitioners, but we came together as a coven. And in the coven, we started practicing. The practice of the coven was Hellenistic.
Okay.
And that's when I started really exploring, and that's when I found Demeter at first. I've just started exploring Apollo, and he's sunshine, but he's also not a nice guy either. You know what I mean? He has a
Sometimes,
dark
yes.
side too. you know, and I started, working with recently the journey of Pericles, and how they left him on the island, and and because his foot got infected, and the crew was like, "We're gonna leave you here," and he was stranded alone on this island.
Philoctetes, yes, that's the island I come from, Limnos. They left him
Yeah.
on because he had the bow and arrow of Hercules, and
Yep.
he got bitten by a snake, and his wound festered and it wouldn't heal. So they were camping on Limnos on their way to Troy, and they left him there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here he is with all this crap going on, trying to figure himself out on the island. And basically, the people that he thought were supporting him and were his crew were not. And that had to be a big, powerful, but he survived it. And he actually ended up playing a major role in that myth,
Yeah.
as far as how that goes. And I really felt like him on that island, where I had had this inner wound that I was working on from my own childhood traumas,
Mhm.
and I felt like it was isolating me from everything else in my life. You name it, I came to terms with it. The people pleasing Joanne, the Joanne that was accepting everybody at face value and trying not to rock the boat. And I really came into my power and was like, you know what? I am powerful in my own right. And
Yes, you are.
it took me a long time to see that. And now to me, that's valuable. That's precious. My peace is precious to me, my power. And you need a wristband to get as close. There's very few people, maybe like you, Jim, and Sigrid, that I work with that really know me on that level. Um, as far as how who I go into my energetic, and I learned who's for me, who's against me. Um, I learned that imitation is not always flattery, because you put yourself out there and all of a sudden you have people that want to copy you, or
Yeah.
do what you're doing, but they can't be you. You can't copy an original. That's like the Halloween movies. After the first two, when the other guys take over, after a while, it's not as good because you can't copy an original. You know what I mean? You can try, but it's never as good.
Right. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I've been imitated hither and yon on occasion. And yeah, and on one level it is flattering because imitation is a form of flattery, but on the other it's a little bit insulting. So I know how you feel.
Because you did all that work to get where you are. And let me tell you, I've went through some trials and tribulations, and until it brought me. And then after I worked on all these things and I addressed all these sucky aspects of myself, right? I had gone to a fundraiser for horses like a year ago. And
Mhm.
I was banging my head trying to find somewhere to do an internship, somebody with enough credentials. And this equine therapy farm, he was a doctor. And I said, listen, I said, paid or not, I need to find an internship. I really want to finish my degree within a reasonable amount of time. Um, so I can practice. I'm like, are you taking interns? Is there anything I can do to shadow, whatever? And he said, actually, I'm working on a program. And he's like, when you're finally ready, let me know. So I had finished all my coursework, and I had gone back out there in May of this year. And I said, what's going? He's like, I'm ready. So I called my school. They had to make sure he had to go through a process to make sure he was certified enough to take supervise, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so by August, here I was in my dream job working with animals, able to use some of my spiritual gifts because we use energy healing. We use a lot of different modalities. We work as experiential therapy. There's horses, there's dogs, there's goats, there's everything. I don't have to get dressed up to go to work. I mean, you know what I mean? It's barn casual. Um, my coworkers are horses, and I work with incredible people, and I am so radical. I manifested the perfect thing. It was all the things. And it had I, and that whole time I was complaining, it was preparing me for this.
Mhm.
And I think as humans, our ego was like, because I wanted, I was trying to rush it. I was trying to force things. And no matter what I did, I banged my head. And every night I would be like, Demeter, help me, like what's going on? Like help me, overcome this. Like, I'm trying to lead by example for my kid here. And what would you do, and how do you stay strong? And you have to do the work. I have learned firsthand that no matter what you do in life, whether it's a friendship, a relationship, a garden, you have to do the work. There's no escaping it. You can't shortcut it. You can't bullet point it. I had my tent on the island for a long time, or on the river Styx, wherever you choose to do that down in location. And I addressed some really ugly aspects of myself. I had a lot of anger, you know, and I had to work that out of me. And now I'm not angry anymore. Now I'm
Oh,
proud of
great.
myself. And that was hard for me to do because I've never been able to, coming from a background where I was always told, who do you think you are? It was really hard for me to accept what I am. Now I'm a therapist. I'm a trauma therapist. I work with horses, and it's still hard for me to say. And I'm a powerful practitioner in my own right. And I'm blessed to have so many people, and doing all that work, and meeting all those people, and doing all that networking over these years of my life have led me to this point.
And you've always been very generous because not only are you brave enough to deal with your own stuff on a direct level, a lot of people deal with their stuff once removed, even in the helping professions. Like they'll work with people who have the problem, but they won't work with themselves or their family member or their spouse that actually has the problem. They'll work through patience, but you work on your problems yourself, and then you also help other people who are on the same journey were affected by these journeys. So that's a lot to be proud of, and that's very powerful.
Well, I always tell people anything I say comes through my own person. It's not something that I have not gone through. Yes, I have theory and textbook, and I have a million credentials under my name, but I've lived my life was by no means easy, and it took work, and there's days that you want to give up. And I'm achy now. I'm not 23, and woo, and it's hard, and you still got to do it though. you know you do it at the capacity that you can do it at. And I think with that time comes wisdom, because had I just taken any old internship, I probably would have been miserable and given up.
Guess what one of my specialties was when I was in the field?
What?
Designing and teaching internship programs
Oh my God. I
in
should have
psychiatric
texted you.
rehabilitation and vocational counseling. I've set them up for hospitals, for nonprofit organizations,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
and I used to design pre-vocational programs where people didn't really learn job skills. That wasn't, they did, but it wasn't really the purpose of it. The purpose of it was to deal with different types of stress, because that's what prevents you from being able to keep a job, dealing with the different stressors, more so than not knowing a particular skill. So that was what my specialty was. Uh,
I should have hit you up for advice. Hindsight. But you know what? I had to do the work myself. I had to
you
figure it
got
out.
there and you found the perfect thing. Now, in terms of the word Hellenistic, people refer to either it being Olympian, which is mostly Greek or Roman, or Greek, Roman, and Egyptian. The Hellenistic age was like Greece, Egypt, and Rome.
Yes.
Those
It,
are those are the mythologies that you work with.
yes, absolutely. I work a lot with Thoth, or Tahuti.
Hmm.
He is actually one of gods that really he's very underestimated, because he's very eager to work with you. But the thing is, when you ask him to help, you have to be a little bit advanced in your how you practice. I think he's not for a beginner, because when I that lies unfold, truth be told, it does work. It opens up all the lies, but not just in the particular area you might be looking for. It opens it up in everything from what really goes on at your grocery store to how they make your sandwich at the donut shop. I mean, I was seeing all kind, and it was like kind of overwhelming because he opens up the truth in all areas of your life, but he also reminds you to keep a sense of humor, and helps you to restore order to that chaos, you know. So he was a very powerful, powerful entity. And it was funny because in studying with Dr. Jeremy Weiss, I had learned how the Greek, the Roman, and the Egyptian were all connected. We're finding out more and more the connection. Everybody was like, "Oh, Cleopatra." I said, "Yeah, but it goes beyond that."
Cleopatra
You know,
was Greek, yeah, and she lived during the time of the Caesars, and the Ptolemies, which were her family. They were the pharaohs, the royal family in Egypt at the time, because Ptolemy was part of Alexander's conquering army. Uh, but yeah, if you look at the Mediterranean, a lot of these places are real next to each other. So whatever
yeah.
trade they had going, the culture spread all over the place. A lot of the mythologies are very similar. The stories that
Mhm.
they told each other are very similar. And people have hypothesized that storytellers will tell the stories and then change the name of the heroes and heroines and villains, to fit into what ever stories they were listening to locally. So yeah, there's a lot in common there. And for those who don't know, Tahuti or Thoth is also known as Hermes to the Greeks and Mercury to the Romans. Most
Yep.
people know him nowadays because he's on flower trucks.
Is he really?
Yeah, for florist company, it's flower
Oh,
delivery.
Merc.
So,
Oh, yes. Okay.
for his,
I was like, I haven't seen Thoth on any flower things. Wow.
and the caduceus is the symbol of the medical profession, the staff with the serpents intertwined around it.
And I do have a lot of Mercury in my chart. I really do.
Yeah.
Even with just a basic read without my birth time, I was like, wow, that's so much Mercury in there. Um, which explains a lot of me being a Taurus and so blah. I tell people I have like, 20 tabs open and where's the music coming from? And that's my head. That's my head every day. Um, and it's hard because the Taurus part of me wants order and wants to know how things are happening, and I want stability. And my mind is like, oh no, we're gonna try, you know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah, even though Leo is my rising sign, I'm very much a Leo. My birth sign is Gemini, so I know exactly uh, how you feel about that. And my eldest son, he's a Taurus, so I know about Tauruses as well.
yes, we're definitely unique, but I'm a Taurus. You could definitely see my Taurus traits, but I have some traits where people are like, honey, are you a Taurus? And I'm like, that's because I'm born very close to Gemini. I'm almost on the cusp. Like, I think I'm a day off. So pretty much I'm in the cusp. I have a lot of Mercury there. I do have a Leo moon and I have a Virgo rising. So I have two people trying to be in control. Another one that's like, look at me, that wants to, that and is, concerned about, making sure how everything presents. And then there's Taurus that's like, wait a minute, this is too risky. We want to not do this, and that's when I really hit my altar. And it was a couple of years of me just digging deep. Um,
Mhm.
too much to get into in an hour, but yeah, it's a lot of work and you have to do it. And it's hard. And then you have all the events going on in the world right now, right? And it's frustrating. And the message I got, this year was focus on what you can focus on, what's within your means, even if that's just donating a bag of food to a shelter, feeding a homeless person one day. Do what you can. Can you go out and personally change the political spectrum? No. I can lead a life of example for others and project what I want to see in the world and make a difference where I can in my own community or in my community with kids that suffer from trauma. I'm learning my skill. Um, and that's where my focus has been. I haven't been on the air as much because I'm trying to adjust to the new normal, fitting this internship in which is taking up a lot of my time, but I still love my podcasting. So that's fun for me. It's my kind of, I don't know, give back to the community, I guess, or sharing the journey.
Well, I got pretty much the same message when I contemplated this whole world we find ourselves in. To just do what I can with what I can do at the time. So I give away health books, and I participate in the community events. I do things like
Yes, you
that.
do so much.
So I don't know if you know, but I was diagnosed with Parkinson's.
No, I did not know that.
Yes, so my balance is a bit off. And
Oh,
so I'm restricted in some of the things I used to do. I can't do them that long anymore or for that much anymore. So again, within the range of what I can do, I do as much as I can do, and that's the message that I got, and that's what I'm doing as well. So I think that's a good idea for anybody. Do what you could do. Don't worry about things you can't change or that beyond your control. But create a better world for yourself and the people around you in whatever way you can, in whatever spheres of influence you have available to you that you interact with.
you have to protect your peace. You have to, because if you don't have your own health,
Hmm.
how can you help other people,
Right.
And it's funny because I was just listening to Michael J. Fox today. He had done an interview with, I think it was Bill Maher, and he was talking about, all the strides that are being made with Parkinson's disease,
Right.
and and so that's a positive thing, because so much, the outlook is brighter, and hopefully it continues to get brighter for people that are being diagnosed with this, and if you catch it early, and how to live with it. I have to give you credit.
Well, again, it's what do you call it? A lot of life I found is not what happens to you, but how you take and what you do with what happens to you. So, uh,
Yeah, but that's scary. That's not like, hey, you
but
have
still,
you
everybody
know,
has
you
challenges,
know,
and this happens to be my challenge right now. But everybody has challenges, and everybody has difficulties, and everybody has things that they need to wrestle with or contend with. So the way I look at it, am I happy that I have Parkinson's disease? No. Would I prefer not to have it? Yes, definitely. But since I have it, I'm not going to let it interfere with the quality of my life beyond whatever it does interfere with. I'm
how
not
have
going
you
to.
used your how have you used the Pantheon to help you through this whole thing?
Well, I believe in positive thinking and in visualization. So my name and my acts are all Herculean. So just like I talked about the Hydra, and that's mythically what I'm doing when I'm wrestling with my diabetes. I have the same thing with Parkinson's. Like for instance, Ladon is a dragon in Greek mythology that guarded
Yep.
the golden apples of the Hesperides, and he had 100 heads, all of which were talking at the same time. So with the
Oh,
Parkinson's
God.
disease, as I'm reading about it, you have all these experts with all these degrees talking at the same time, and not all of them can be right. So who do you listen to? I'm not a doctor. So I have to learn discernment, and I have to experiment with the information I'm getting. And some of it's very good. Like there was a book, and people said, "Oh, don't read that. It's probably a junky book because it doesn't look like a scholarly book or a medical book." But the guy in there said that you can command your Parkinson's to stop. Like you could command your shaking to stop. Just say stop, and it'll stop. And I found that that's true. And I also found that by working out my body and my mind, like 20 minutes or so, half an hour or so, like 4 or 5 times during the day, helps tremendously. So,
That is actually true, because Parkinson's affects neural pathways, obviously. And,
right,
you can create new neural pathways, but you have to that's why I tell everybody, do some mind work, do some body work, work on your spirit, do something good for yourself, do something good for somebody else, because that's, is that going to make all your problems go away? No, but it's going to strengthen you to to better be able to deal with it in a
exactly,
healthy way,
exactly.
and the mind work is going to be so important for, even if it's just a crossword puzzle. It's amazing what just I do mahjong, believe it or
Really,
not.
yeah.
That's my go-to. I do a half hour of mahjong a day, and I'm like, to keeps the brain sharp.
I'm relearning my Greek. It's been years. I still speak Greek, and I'm Greek, uh, but I haven't really spoken it a lot for years. So now I'm relearning how to speak my Greek so that it's a much better level than it was before. And
Oh, that's
so
beautiful.
restudying astromythology, the mythology of the stars and the planets. I've always known a lot about it. I love mythology, but I always felt like I was too lazy for like a strong astrology.
Yep.
But now I figure let me correct that. So with what time I have left, every day either watch a YouTube video or read some in a book, and I have more conversations about it. So I figure those things will keep my mind busy and active. Uh,
Yes.
but yeah, so to go back to the beginning of the question, I found that does it make the shaking stop altogether? No. Does it make all the symptoms disappear? No. But doing these things empowers me and it minimizes the effects, and it's something positive. I'm not feeling bad about myself or about my life because this is something that's not that great, but there are so many things that I'm grateful for that are fantastic. Like we're sitting here talking again, and maybe you'll want to bring back joyful empowerment, and we'll work that into the schedule
Absolutely.
again.
People keep asking me about it, and I'm like, I said Hercules is figuring some stuff out, and I said, and I'm figuring it. I needed that time to put this into place. You know what I mean? And that's why it was so funny with the timing when you texted me. I'm like, I've come full circle. This is great. I'm back home. You know what I mean? And to me, it was like, my what do you call it? My podcasting home or my it was like coming home to Mount Olympus. That's how I felt.
Well,
I was like back.
you're
I
always welcome
belong.
here, and we'll work on the schedule and get you back on the schedule. During that time, Facebook kicked me off for some reason. So
Yeah.
all the people that I built up a network of over like 35,000 people. So that was all gone in a second. And then I started having some computer problems, and that's persisted. Recently, my computer was hacked. So there's been lots of obstacles along the way, but I've always enjoyed our conversations. I was always glad that we had them, and now I'm looking forward to having them regularly again. But we live in a universe full of surprises. So hopefully, we won't have any more negative surprises. as we-
No, and like I said, I think um I've grown a lot, you gave me that opportunity, and you believed in me, and you said, as scared as I was, you could see. And in a way I'm sad, but in a way sometimes I'm like, oh, thank goodness that first episode of Joyful Empowerment, because you could tell my anxiety with the first episode and to how things have evolved over time.
Yeah, you
um
got through it. You did great, and you're still podcasting, and you've grown beyond the podcast here, and you've done other podcasts and other type of work. And I saw a couple of them. They're really high quality. So you
oh,
evolved
thank you.
uh, beyond Mount Olympus when it offered. So I'm so happy, for you. So you took advantage of what was there, and you used it to grow rather than just saying, "No, I don't think I'll do this," or whatever. You were brave enough to take the opportunity and run with it.
That was so funny because I was working again with Demeter at that time, and I was I had done a thing with Yesha Matthews. And you had mentioned in the after the event that we worked together, that you wanted me to do a podcast. And I remember, like, something was telling me, I read something or got some reading, like, do things outside of your normal sphere, like get back out there. I think it was Leanne Marama that said that to me. She had done a reading on me. And she's like, get back out there, do things that you wouldn't normally do. You got to put yourself out there. And I was like, and I was like, okay, me. And I'm thinking in my head, the whole me, a podcast. What are you nuts, Joanne? You don't know what you're doing. And then I did that thing with Yesha about the joyful empowerment. And right after we did that, you called and you were like, oh, you ready to do your podcast? Did you think of a name? And I was like, oh my God, he actually called me back, because you people say things all the time. I want to work with you. And then you don't hear from them sometimes. And I was like, and you're like, what's the name of your podcast? And I had the piece of paper that we made at the beginning of the year up, and it was the empowering phrase for my year. Like you had to come up with a word of empowerment, right? Or a
Hmm.
word for the year. And I picked empowerment. And then Yeshua was like, all right, well, let's break it down further because there's a dark side. What would be the dark side to empowerment? I said, well, I don't want to empower illness. I don't want to empower weight gain. I want to. And she's like, all right, so what kind, I said, I want to be happy. So she's like, joyful. And I was like, yeah, so joyful empowerment. So when you called me and asked for the name, I literally looked on my altar and I had the paper up there and you were like, what's the name? And I was like, joyful empowerment.
Yes. And I wanted to interview you back then from the beginning on your Hellenistic form of spirituality. And it took a while, but here we're doing it today. So,
And yeah, and Demeter was really, you know what I mean? Like she worked, I have that connection with her,
mhm.
and it's amazing. Out of all the female deities that I work with, I think her and Medusa have been crucial in my coming into my own power, teaching me grace, teaching me how to set boundaries, teaching me how to protect my family and myself. I had to learn all these things because when you put yourself in the public eye, as you know, you get a lot of just unsavory people start popping up, and people have opinions, and I try never to read my comments, on things, when people say negative things about people. I don't. First of all, I don't allow it on the platform. I tell people this isn't a mouthpiece for your personal agenda. If you have an educational topic for a seeker, we want to hear it, but
Mhm.
you're not going to tell us who we can and can't interview. You're not going to, we don't want to be part of your witch war. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's been huge, and we've stuck to that.
No, that's a good thing. A lot of people argue. I know even in the Olympian community over who's believing things or doing things the right way and how other people are wrong. And part of the reason for this program is to show that we're all enriched by learning what other people are doing because we could learn new things and try new things, and it'll enrich our interaction with the gods and goddesses.
Well, my friend Sigrid, she's in Denmark, and I'm here. She's a Nordic practitioner. I knew nothing about the Nordic pantheon, and I'm here in the US, and we made it work, and we made it beautiful. We made beautiful magic together, and we're like, people need to wake up that we have more in common as a
Right.
collective than we do not, you
We're all
know,
going to human
and we need to
experiences,
weave those webs.
and the human experience is pretty universal in many ways. Whatever place you're born in, whatever point in time, there are some things that are human, and that's something we all share. And a lot of people forget that too. They tend to see us as friends and enemies, and you have to destroy your enemies and protect your friends, and not let your friends learn about your enemies. And
And
it's
that blew me away with Sigrid, and that was an integral part of our friendship, was the fact that she never said, "Oh, I can't do that. We don't do that way." She would tell me, here in Denmark, this is how we do it, and I would say, "Okay, this is how we celebrate that holiday." And
Mhm.
then we would mix it and would come up with these beautiful rituals, and we were doing them together over Zoom, because it was pandemic time still, and we did that wheel of the year, and we just learned so much about each other, and about the different deities and pantheons that we were working. And I found it very empowering, because and thanks to Marvel, the Greek and the Nordic pantheons are, people look at it as comic book characters,
Right.
and Comic Con and all that. And I'm like, there's so much more to it than that. Like working with Loki. I mean, yes, I love the show Loki, and I love Tom Hiddleston, but Loki is someone I learned to work with Sigrid. And I related to him really well because I was always the outsider on my family trying to make things right, and it would always go bad. And, and I tried to keep a sense of humor. And, even though the humor might have been dark, at the time. And I really related with him as a god, and started working a little bit with him. So this year, what we're going to do is I'm going to learn the runes, and we're going to do a Nordic wheel of the year because their wheel of the year is completely different than what we do.
Oh, awesome. I used to teach runes maybe 25 years ago. I was a rune teacher in uh,
Wow.
in Queens, New York, and in Brooklyn, New York.
You'll have to come on our show and talk runes.
It's been quite a while but I remember the Eddas and things like that. Garm based loud in Knipa cave. The fetters will snap in the wolf run free. The future I fathom and further can see. The death of the gods, invincible gods. Would you know more or what? I had like big parts of the Edda memorized, and
Wow.
it brings
That's
me
so
back.
beautiful.
Yeah, the gods have become comic book characters, and there are some books like there's one book called "Our Gods Wear Spandex," which is interesting. And one of my shows is called Pop Culture Pantheons, and it focuses on how the mythical religions have become like comic book superheroes. And we deal with mostly Olympian ones and how they appear in like Marvel and DC and independent comics and so on and so forth, cartoons.
And because it was funny because Sigrid is like, we're working the Pantheon, and she's like, I'm going to tell you right now that Thor and Loki do not look anything like the movie.
Right.
And I said, I don't know that. I said, do I like those movies? Yeah, but and it's hard because yes, those myths are good because they bring a light to those myths, but they're, I don't know, it's not realistic like the Marvel comic, Thor and all that. I don't think is a realistic portrayal. Yeah, I might be wrong, but
Well, they're not faithful to the original material, but they're inspired by it. And a lot of people find out. I wrote a paper on this when I was writing for my degree on how pop culture perpetuates ancient mythology. And then you always have people who are like will read a comic book or watch a Marvel movie, and then they'll become curious about the original stuff. So they'll go back to the Eddas, they'll go back to the mythology books, and they'll learn about the mythology. And some of those people who are interested in the mythology will go on to learn the runes, and they'll read the Verla Spow and learn about like shamanism, and they'll learn about Galdur and the more masculine form of power and the runes and so forth. So the pop culture serves its purpose, and it keeps that information vital and alive in people's imaginations. So uh, I know a lot of people have problems with the pop culture, but I don't. I see it as something really valuable, and it's a road back to the mythical gods.
yeah. But see, you have the knowledge of both sides, so that's a good thing. I tell people if you really want to know about deities, look up the Cathonia podcast. That's Breege Burke, who I worked a lot. I'm so blessed to have had her as a mentor over the last year because she
Mhm.
really helped me build my confidence and look at those aspects of myself that I hated but made me who I am. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, I had a moment where a friend of mine, I was on the phone with one of my college colleagues or fellow students, and we were talking about internships. And I was telling her, I'm banging my head. And in the time we were doing this, my best friend from when I was 8 years old sent me a picture of her and I when we were 16 years old. And I looked at that picture and I started to cry. And my friend is like, "What's wrong?" I said, "My friend just sent me a picture of myself when I was 16 years old." And my mother used to fat you. You're fat, you're fat, you're this, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
All the time. And I looked at that picture and there I saw this beautiful 16-year-old girl. And I cried because I was so horrible to her. I wanted to be anybody else but her at that time. I hated her. I hated being in my own skin, but and I look at back now and I'm like, wow, I was beautiful. I had so much promise. And look what I did to myself. And I really had to face that issue. I had to confront that. I really had to confront that dark piece to be able to come out of this with the attitude that I have, and everybody's like, oh, what are you all love and light now? I'm like, oh, heck no, don't mess with me, but I really just prefer to protect my peace. I don't go down rabbit holes. I don't care who I take people at face value and form my own judgments. I graduated high school, a while ago. And I don't play that way anymore. I make my own judgments on people, and I trust my gut and my intuition. And it took me a long time to be comfortable with that and to forgive myself for being so horrible to myself.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to look into that mirror and change the picture that you saw and introduce light and love into it so that it changed you and made you a better person and a more capable person and a more powerful person.
Well, I did a lot of Rahani with Briege as well, which is almost like an angel, like it works with ultraviolet light,
Mhm.
ultraviolet flame. It's like Reiki on steroids, and it focuses on mostly the heart chakra, and it opens you up. And yeah, it was really powerful, and a lot of crying and just. And then once I let all that out and I released it, I mean, I still know it's there. I'm still not happy about it, but I released that sadness and that anger, and I forgave my mother, not because it felt good, because forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a choice, right? And I
Right.
chose to forgive her, but it doesn't mean I had to feel good about it. It still sucked, and I was still angry and upset. And I had to work that aspect in there, and I had to release those emotions. And once that happened, the doors started opening again. That's when I went to the farm again a year later, and all these things happened, and lined up about internship and all that. So it was an amazing journey.
And the darker mythical figures, and even like you pointed out, Apollo, because he is the charioteer of the sun, but the sun goes underground in the myths half the time. So,
And
and
Apollo can be mean. Let's be realistic.
yes, you can. And the Oracle of Delphi, which is the word of Apollo and the light of Apollo, for half the year, Dionysus was in charge of the oracular utterances at Delphi. But the story is the descent to the underworld. That's very much a part of Demeter's story
Yep.
and Persephone's story. And that changes you. You know, you go into the earth, you die, and or the who you were at the time dies, and then that leaves a chance for you to be reborn and to be greater than you were before. And what I find with forgiveness is, because now I'm almost 70, so
You're not.
yes, I am, in my late 60s. Uh, so I found that as I contemplate my life, a lot of times I look at things that I did that I'm not exactly happy with what I did or the way I did something or how it turned out. But then I looking at it honestly, it's, for the most part, this was the best I could do at the time based on
Yep.
who I was, how I was, what I knew, and how I understood life. So I made the decision, the best decision I could make at the time. So was it the right decision? No, but I wouldn't have known that if I had made the decision. So it did change me, and it gave me more options and to consider and more things to choose from. So I learned to apply that to other people who I felt had wronged me. That they, a lot of them did not have the education that I had. They didn't do a lot of
Yep.
the work that I've done. So
No.
based on who they were at the time and what they knew at the time, they made the best decision they could and did the best they could. Was it a good thing? No, not in the long run. But again, so I've learned to just cut a lot of people slack, and just
Yep.
not
It doesn't mean
allow
I have
myself
to
to.
go hang out and have coffee with that person
Right.
again.
No, it doesn't.
And I'm all joy and sparkles about it. Absolutely not. But I've let go of that resentment. Like it's
Right.
not, I know it's there and I learned from it, but it's not altering how I maneuver in my life.
Right,
because those moments, I think, really affect, like you said, how we handled situations back then. How I handled things when I was 20 is very different than how I do that now.
right.
And I think a lot of that is the work that we do in our communities with at-risk youth and people that have mental health issues. We see there was a meme out there that said, describe what you do for a living without saying what you do for a living. And I was like, wow, that's kind of hard. How do you do that for a therapist? And I was like, I know, I have it. I deal with the repercussion. I deal with the ripple effects of people's poor choices in life. And that's true. I'm helping kids whose parents have made some not so healthy choices, and trying to help them work through things, in my muggle world job.
You're more benevolent than I am. When I did that exercise years ago, and it's true, and nothing's been truer. I found two words that summarize everything I am and everything I do: living mythology.
Yes.
That's basically, you take just about everything I do or I've tried to do or I've done or I'm intending on doing, and it involves either helping people see how they're living mythology, keeping living mythology alive, and living myths myself. Like I
Yeah.
talk about the Hydra and the hundred-headed dragon and things like that. So everything can be summarized in those two words. So it freed me once I realized this and once I accepted it, because I found that I get my fulfillment by doing that too. So it's essential to who I am and what I'm doing
Yeah.
in the world. So I was able to let go of so much, and it made me lighter, and it made my life more joyous and empowered.
Yes, and I also took a deep dive into Jewish mysticism with
Mhm.
Dr. Jeremy at the Temple of Miriam. And I started studying Kabbalah and learning the Torah and because it's funny because being raised Catholic, I thought Jewish people just read the Old Testament. And I found out that the Torah is so much more than that. It is allegories for life. And we read the Book of Solomon,
The
the
Song of
Solomon and
Ecclesiastes,
the seals of Solomon.
yeah, the Song of Solomon and the
That
Ecclesiastes, and the Seals of Solomon were from the magic system that he had.
Yeah, and it was the Greek, and that's where the Greeks came in because they translated that whole text,
The
and
Septuagint,
it
yeah.
was huh?
The Septuagint, yeah, the 70
Yes,
translations, yeah.
yes, and I learned so much, and I was like, wow, and I learned how much gets mistranslated as well. But I
Yes,
learned about, all these connections, and it reaffirms my thing that the message, no matter where you're putting your energy, whether you're a pagan, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, I have all different types of followers under my thing. Even Asia people and things like that. Whatever you're putting your head in, the message is the same. Be good to other people, be good, be a good person, be good to other people, and don't just embody what you want to see in the world. I don't want chaos at this stage of my life. I want peace.
right, me too. Wow, we went very far in the hour that we've been on, and I'm so glad we had this conversation. I'm glad that you're doing well. I'm glad that you've grown and expanded. I'm glad that you got your internship and that you're able to pursue that aspect of your studies. And I have confidence that even greater things and deeper things and more expansive things and more joyous things are in the future. How can people find you? How can they contact you? And how can they get involved with some of the wonderful things that you're doing?
Right now, most of my work, we have a YouTube channel, Inside the Sacred Circle, on YouTube. You can like and subscribe there. Anything I do online, like this, I'll post that there for you. And also, I am on my page, Joanne Gajewski. I don't have any fancy accolades or anything like that. So you can get a hold of me through Facebook. And I believe our email is Joanne. I have to check. You can do joanne.gajewski@gmail.com to get a hold of me via email. I'm not really doing readings or anything right now because I'm focusing on my internship, but
Uh-huh.
I am always looking for people to interview on my platforms. So if you would like to be interviewed, please reach out through Facebook, is usually the best way, through Messenger, and then I'll connect with you further from there. Jim and I have talked about getting a page out there to make life easier for both of us, like a one-stop place to get a hold of us for these things.
Right.
So that's in the works still. But he's
Awesome.
doing his muggle job and he works retail, so he's all over the place more so than I am right now.
Give him my regards. And if you send me the information you'd like for your YouTube channel, if you send it to me in a personal message on Facebook tomorrow when I put this up on YouTube, I will send you not only the link, but I'll put the links that you want people to look at under the description on YouTube. So this way people can access it easier.
Yeah, because I'll share it to there as well, so you can start building some of that platform back.
Joanne, thank you so very much. You're incredibly awesome. May things continue to keep you positive and joyful and empowered.
It's good to be home. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you for you know, giving me another home to come back to.
Thank you for coming back. It's great to have you here. And by this weekend, I'll have some suggested dates and we'll start planning this.
Oh, that'd be so wonderful.
Okay, be well.
Thank you, everybody out there.
And until next time, joyous journeys and amazing adventures to all. Good night.
Good night.